The following vodcast contains opinions from paid professionals. The information provided in this vodcast is general in nature and not advice. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Welcome to the Stradbroke episode of So We Think. 2 Group 1s to sink our teeth into at Eagle Farm on Saturday. The Stradbroke handicap conditions, the Group 1 over the 1,400 metres, and then the JJ Atkins, the final Group 1 for the 2-year-olds for the season. Ben Way, it has been a wonderful season, and I know we're still a little time off concluding the season that was, but today we will go through some of our highlights that we've enjoyed.
Yeah, plenty of highlights everywhere you look, some surprises along the way, remarkable storylines. I mean, we have the luxury of sitting down most weeks to talk about the various storylines. Pride of Jenny, the good, the bad, the ugly, the retirements, the returns, and maybe the re-retirements has been one constant storyline.
Yeah.
Wodton started off as a Wodton, finished as a Wadton and maybe a Dudton. Bella went from a grand opposition to the star of the show.
Yep.
And disappeared just as her meteoric rise hit its peak, which I love. Has gone out on a high. Knight's Choice.
Oh, Melbourne Cup winner.
Fantastic story.
For Robbie
Singing
Boland
jockey.
particularly, yeah.
But also for the training pair, I mean, a second Melbourne Cup for one.
And only her second ever runner in the race, Sheila Laxon.
I mean, Robbie might have stolen the show, but she's not too far behind.
He does do that, doesn't he?
He does.
I reckon the other ones we've got to throw in there, Via Sistina, her Cox Plate romp, an 8-length victory, giving James McDonald his 3-peat of Cox Plates and his 100th Group 1.
Yeah, the Group 1s that he threw in the lead up to that, just so he could have the limelight in a Cox Plate. That was a storyline in itself, wasn't it? But you know what?
Broadsiding in a Caulfield Guineas, you would never...
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
When you win 3 and getting Autumn Glow scratched, the morning of the flight, controversial. The lengths that man will go to for attention, blimey. So to win 3 Cox Plates in succession, to win your 100th Group 1, and yet to be overshadowed by the equine performance, tells you how good Via Sistina was.
Yeah.
She was... that was possibly the greatest single performance I've seen, I think.
Yeah, for this year it definitely was.
No, I think ever.
Really?
Well, ratings-wise...
Not Pride of Jenny and the Queen Elizabeth, like that's always front of mind for a lot of people. No, okay.
I just can't think of a horse that beats Via that day.
We predicted that we wouldn't have a standout 2-year-old, so to speak, in the early part of this year. And we were proven right in a way. We've had multiple different winners, Vinrock, Devil's Night, Mahuna. So there wasn't one that really swept the pool, so to speak, and won everything before them.
No, and we had a changing of guard in the sprinters as well. So we knew that when we had the fall off, and Bella obviously has won, Nature Strip, Eduardo's, once they left, we were like, okay, who's going to take on this mantle now? And we thought there was a bit of a gap, but suddenly your Private Harry has, emerged, and that was a fantastic story.
That was one day I'll remember.
For Ash and Nath. And then Briasa has really stepped up. And then I guess from an international standpoint with an Australian flavour, we have David Hayes and Kay Ying Rising coming down for this year's Everest. So it has flipped quicker than I anticipated, but I'm excited. What they bring.
I know there's been a bit of commentary about the fact, it's not as strong a sprinting rank as it once was. We're at the bottom. Let's just call our jets. We're building back up because we've lost a lot of those prized icons that we've held in such high regard for so many years. That Briasa could be that. Private Harry could be that. People are very quick to go, oh yeah, it's Private Harry. Well, he could be a real superstar of the moment, of the future. For the winter performances, for me, Tony Gollan and Tino, Brisbane Cup, hometown boy, stretching him over the 2,000 metres and a Cox Plate beckons.
It does. The girls have been a big story.
The gals.
Well, we speak of superstars, Autumn Glow. And the beauty of the girls is we'll get to see them for quite a long time. But Jolie Star has won, 2 Group 1s this season? 3
2 for the season, yep.
Right.
So she's got 1,000 guineas, a Newmarket, and now her crowning glory in the Kingsford Smith on the weekend.
Autumn Glow, Lady Shenandoah, treasure the moment, Aliana. We have a crop of girls who will eventually bump into each other in one place or another that are next level good. That's exciting. Not the emergence, but the superiority of Yulong is probably a story too.
One I'll throw in there, and I know you've got an obscure one as well. One I will throw in there that I'm excited to see him back at the track on the weekend is Alan Kehoe and Shaggy.
Oh, yeah.
Because we really enjoyed that storyline of him winning, the Group 2 at Randwick and finding himself with a potential spot in the slipper. The race after that, it didn't all pan out. They tipped him out for a spell. But he's back in the Oxlade this weekend. So I thought that was from a battler's point of view, the boy from the bush, I really enjoyed that. And we did ride that storyline for a couple of weeks there.
Yeah, that storyline didn't deliver where we would have had Shaggy versus Watson in a slipper, both coming in off winning form.
Correct.
That's kind of what we were hoping for. So we didn't ultimately get that. Who was my left fielder?
You had a training performance from last Saturday that you said cannot
David
be
Payne.
beaten.
Shahisha. Yeah, well, as he reminded me pre and post race, they do it all the time in South Africa and England. But 11 up to 16 with Shahisha first up against a couple that had a run. It was one of those ones where so many people dismissed her based purely off that. But then
I was one of them because I know she's a stakes quality filly. But when I saw the 11 to the 16, I went, if there's a negative, that's it.
I shouldn't just flag that one. I mean, we've had some remarkable performances even at the midweeks. I seem to remember Waterhouse and Bott had one win first up at 2000 by memory, maybe a couple of months ago. There are stories everywhere you go. But what a season it's been. And we did have the passing of one of the superstars of Australian racing this week in Snitzel.
Yeah, and I was also wanting to mention Robbie Lang and also Michael Wallace as well, who's a very good friend of our family and worked very closely with Michael for a long period of time. So very sad news there.
So he was boss of China Horse Club, or how did that?
Chief Operating Officer.
Right.
Of the China Horse Club for I think nearly 10 years before he went out on his own. So that was sad news. But yeah, Snitzel. We'll get to that in just a moment.
Oh, you want to pause?
I'm just going to plug what we've got coming up first.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So the biggest news of the week is James Cummings heading to Hong Kong. And we have got the man of the hour on the show very shortly. Don't go anywhere. We will preview the Stradbroke and the JJ and the Q22, which is looking a little... Okay. The other two are great, though.
Great.
And then we'll also chat maybe a little bit of Royal Ascot in there as well. But to the little tidbits of the week. So James Cummings heading to Hong Kong. That's number one. We'll give our thoughts on that after we speak to Mr. Cummings himself. Snitzel does pass at the age of, we think, 23. Ish. He was humanely euthanised on Wednesday. He'd had a liver complaint for at least a year or so, and I think they managed it really well, the team at Arrowfield, all of their dedicated vets. Unfortunately, he took a real big turn last week, and they had to put him down. But, he leaves a lasting legacy.
He does. So I always find that he gets thrown in with I'm invincible. People say, well, you don't necessarily need to have a great career on the track to have one off it. And I'm kind of like, well, hang on. Yeah. He did win a Group 1. And not only did he win a Group 1, it gets dismissed as, well, he won an Oakley Plate on a heavy 10 and, maybe a few of them didn't handle it. Well, that may be true, but he was a 3-year-old in that, so 51 and a half. Takeover Target was in the race, won, 6 domestic Group 1s and a couple overseas. Miss Andretti won 5 Group 1s. She was in there.
International winner as well, yeah.
Virage de Fortune had won a Group 1 the start prior. So, in terms of a vintage crop, for want of a pun, he's beaten the best in the business, generational talents in that win. So, to everyone at Arrowfield, huge loss. To Gerald Ryan, who I'm sure still has a huge soft spot for Snitzel, also trained a couple of his successful sires like Trapeze Artist in that sense. He first inspected him as a yearling, and then look at the journey they've all been taken on.
The satisfaction that must give you as a trainer with an eye for a horse, and then be able to identify that talent and then actually translate it to
capitalise on
to victories on track, and then for him to be a very successful and commercial stallion at Arrowfield. I feel for those guys because they would have loved him. And to see him go, he probably didn't have that much longer left in the breeding barn, if we're being really honest with ourselves. But it's any time you have to do that to an animal because they're unwell. It's very sad.
He's been there for 2 decades. That was his home. So 1,281 winners, 23 Group 1 winners, 160 stakes winners, 4-time champion sire. But when you break that down, I've seen those stats. Somebody must have posted them, so everyone shared them, right? That's how it kind of works. But you need to go deeper into it.
Okay, a deep dive with Ben
No,
Way.
this isn't that deep, but 3 Golden Slippers, 4 Guineas, 2 Golden Roses, a pair of Everest, the Cox Plate, an All Aids to Flight, a Coolmore, an English-sized trifecta, and 2 Magic Millions 2-year-old classics.
They're good races.
But then you go into his sons or daughters and what they've done, and it's remarkable. He's had 17 stakes siring sons and 6 Group 1 siring sons.
Wow.
You've also got fillies like Lady Shenandoah, Mahuna, who we've just seen. But my question to you is, so he was by Redout's choice.
Who was the stallion of a generation.
A stallion-making stallion.
Yep.
He then has Snitzel. Does he have the standout son that you would love to, that you think could become the next Snitzel? So you've got, say, Seamus Award and Trapeze Artist, who have done a good job, but definitely not hitting his heights as yet.
I know who you're going to say, and I think it's a good one.
Do you think that Switzerland can become that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on him now.
Huge amount of pressure. But bred in the purple, a sprint Group 1 winner. I know that Coolmore obviously hold him in high regard. And yes, it is a big mantle, but if there's one of those to do it, he has that presence and that marketability. Like, he's going to get all the best mares going forward. And I think that counts for something.
Who was the high-priced progeny that we saw go through the sales?
So the full brother to Switzerland sold at the English Easter yearling sale for 2.8, I think it was. So Snitzel, Ms. Bad Behaviour.
It's a fair bit of pressure on him too.
Yeah,
I mean, there was pressure already.
Yeah.
But I hope we have one stand up to continue that lineage.
It
that
could
legacy.
just be that. Jolie Star, she's going for a spell as anticipated, whether she heads towards an Everest campaign. You get the feeling that Chris is like a little bit undecided about that. I know that there was commentary during the week, particularly from Jolie Star's owners in the Lindsays in New Zealand, that they thought that she should have and could have won that Everest last year. Maybe parking a few pairs further forward. We all probably agree that could have worked out differently, but maybe there's unfinished business there. Chris also said to me in post-race interview on weekend, if you do decide to go down an Everest path, it does rule a lot of other things out, especially knowing that she's probably not best over the 1,200.
And he might think he has a couple of girls that would be beating her home.
Yeah, over those trips. And that's not to say they are better than Jolie Star, but she wins a Group 1 on the weekend over the 13. She's won a Group 1 over the mile as a 3-year-old. Like, body of work and the evidence is there to suggest that her best trip is probably 7 furlongs.
Yeah.
Anyways, she's going for a spell. Where would you like to see her end up?
I'd like to see them all go towards the Everest.
You're a sicko.
I am.
And then Lambourne won the Epsom Derby, which is the stallion making race over in the UK.
Oh, by the way, I've started watching the doco.
And what'd you think?
Loved it.
How good was it?
Yeah, loved it.
It's a bit wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some of the characters.
Yeah, but you need that. You need
100%.
that appeal.
Yeah.
So highly recommend to anyone out there. And it really added to my interest levels.
Didn't it
I
just?
usually follow it vaguely, whereas I was invested this year off the back of that.
And I know we've tried our darndest in the last few years to create a similar product to a much lesser extent here in Australia about the Everest. But if we could get some real money and really do a good job of creating a doco about the wheeling and dealing and the jocks and the trainers and the horses and the owners and all the colour and the theatre and palaver about the world's richest race on turf, can you imagine where that leaves that race in world standings in years to come? I'll do it, but I just need a lot of money.
Yeah, heaps of money, heaps of money. It did make me think that Frankie Dettori just says the same thing in every country. He said, I had to come out of retirement. I feel as though I had unfinished business. It's a race that I'd never been able to win and those sorts of things. And I thought, you say that every time you come to Australia for the Melbourne Cup.
He's an interesting one, isn't he?
He is. But he's the sort of guy you need in that sort of doco
Yeah.
to help steer your
Bit of
storylines.
hoopla.
Yeah. I don't think we have owners quite like they have.
The Ivor, is it Ivor?
Yeah, man, they are.
Mate, you should try one of those jackets. They look good on you.
I would like that.
Maybe this next guest, he's a much
I doubt
better dresser than that.
I doubt it. Yeah, sharp hats, but I doubt he'd wear that jacket.
Big news in the world of world racing yesterday with the announcement that James Cummings will be headed to Hong Kong, not this year, next year, to take up a position in their training ranks, and we welcome him to So We Think. We've spoken about you a lot on the podcast for the last 3 years, James, so nice to finally welcome you on board.
Yeah, we have actually. It's been weird. Hi,
Thanks,
James.
guys. Thanks for having me on.
Tell us how it came about, because it seems like it was something that really genuinely popped up maybe only in the last 3 or so weeks.
Yeah, that's right. It came about really quickly, and I suppose that the Hong Kong Jockey Club sensed an opportunity, and they reached out at the perfect time, because it gave Monica and I the chance to think about it seriously and consider it as a viable option. And the more we looked into it and weighed up what the best thing is for our family as well as my career, that's the decision we settled on, and we're excited about following it through.
James, I got the impression that you had been not necessarily keen on the idea, but you'd thought about the idea for a couple of years. So when you say the opportunity is only recent, is that to say you guys had sort of speculated, maybe discussed it amongst yourselves, but until you were asked or until it became a reality, it wasn't real consideration until the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, that's right. I've not been invited before, and this came about quickly. I also had to balance out one day having the ambition and keeping the door ajar is one thing, to go to Hong Kong to train and to experience that. But I've got to balance that out with the family, and I've got 4 kids under 10, so this is a perfect time to do it for our family, because in a few years' time it'd just be a lot more difficult. So that was the way we assessed it, and my kids, having spoken to them, they're excited about the idea. They feel like it's a great adventure to go stick together as a family and experience the world in a totally different way, and open them up to an interesting culture and a different upbringing that I think will give them a great worldview. So we're excited about that as well, and that's why we felt like it was a now or never sliding doors opportunity to take.
That's a lovely way of looking at it, because it is, to upheave a family and take them overseas. I agree with James that the kids have to be the right age. Like, if your eldest had been 13, 14, that is not the time to uproot a child and take them overseas for a few years. It just would disrupt their well-being too much. But the next year, so heading over till next year, like, how much are we reducing this golf handicap in the next year? Is that what's on the cards?
Well, I don't know how much golf I will play, but I think that I'd be really wise to spend my time meeting people, travelling, seeing different race meetings and the different ways of preparing horses. I'd love to receive approvals or invitations to spend some time with certain trainers, but also meet a lot of different owners and breeders and agents to give myself the best opportunity to have a good network before I, a really good base before I kick off there next year. And it's also a good chance to refresh, because I've not really taken a long break at all since I started training in 2013, and it's full on. So those licensed people, jockeys, trainers that take that time away from racing, my observation is they come back with great gusto and they're reinvigorated. And that's what I want to draw upon by taking this time off, and I feel like that could really turn that into a great advantage for the challenges ahead next year.
I'm sure you guys sat down and did a bit of a pros and cons, so maybe lay them out for us. Tell us the pros and cons of going over there, and maybe the pros and cons of setting something up here on your own, maybe even in a Leilani Lodge, because it would appear from the outside looking in, they were your 2 options. So I'm just trying to get a gauge as to what tipped you over the edge to go there.
Well, look, I think when it's all said and done, like the opportunity to go there was so attractive, and going to Hong Kong for a young trainer, even though I've been training for 12 years now, it has been like a very busy time since I started in 2013, and I felt like I was really ready for a change. But a couple of months ago, I wasn't quite in that mindset. A couple of months ago, I thought we would be here and we would be trying to keep as many of the team together that we could, and that was something that I was looking forward to. And so that's regrettable that I can't keep the team together by making this move. But having spoken to a lot of the team already, they're very encouraging, and I think it's a great move to make, and they're supportive. So I've got great faith that they're going to be fine, and they're talented people who are hardworking and passionate about the industry, and I think they've got big futures. But that would be a just it's something I'll miss, having that team that we've built up over all these years, and people that have come and gone have been integral to the success that we've had, and that'll be sad to miss. But the reality is nothing lasts forever, and you've just got to keep taking opportunities as they come along.
The style of racing in Hong Kong is very different. Obviously, we're racing in a benchmark system, and there's a lot fewer Group 1s. There's a lot fewer of those stakes races. How does that sit in your mind? Because I'm not sure if our listeners are aware, but you're the fastest trainer to ever reach 50 Group 1s in Australia. That's quicker than Waller, quicker than your grandfather, quicker than Tommy Smith, like quicker than all the greats. You've done it. And I know that you don't dwell on that as an achievement, but it is something to really celebrate over the last 12 years of your career. But whilst going over to Hong Kong will give you an incredible opportunity, there is no doubt it does put a stall on the number of Group 1 winners that you will be able to train over the next however many years that you're there. Is that something in your mind that does tick over and that you do think about?
Yeah, I thought about that, and that would be one of the items in a list on one column. But there's a lot to outweigh the smaller number of Group 1s in the season in Hong Kong. It just goes into the mix, the way you make a decision. What I'd say is, like, looking at world racing right now, 2 of the top 5 ranked horses in the world are currently trained in Hong Kong, and one of them is a rock solid favourite for the Everest this year. So there's no doubt that there are quality horses in Hong Kong, like between Romantic Warrior, Guardian Rising, 2 of the best horses that are out there racing in the world. And that goes without mentioning some others, Helios Express and many, like, there's many
Voyage
good horses
Bubble.
and horses we've seen. Yeah, Voyage Bubble, horses we've seen come through that are top horses, and they're good horses anywhere. So I think that when it boils down to it, like, if you get a good horse in your hands and you get the opportunity to take that horse to the top level, that's a great satisfaction, and you balance all that out wherever you are.
Where do you think, say 10 years from now, where do you think we're going to see Godolphin at in Australia? So they've branched away from the model, which essentially had you training the vast majority of them and a big system there. Now suddenly it's going to be more of a freelance model. Are we going to continue to see Godolphin wind back to the point, not necessarily to the point of extinction, but where we see a lot less here in Australia? Or do you think it'll still be the beast that it's always been, at least for the past couple of decades?
Yeah, Andy Mackie's told me that he thinks that the number of mares that Godolphin will continue to breed and keep in the herd will remain at the same number. And so if that keeps unfolding the right way and the bloodstock keeps going well, I could see every reason why they'd still be as strong now as they have been. But you just know, you never know. You can't tell the future. You just need to be. The critical thing for Godolphin is that they continue to breed good colts that get onto the rosters and fillies that are competitive in black type races that can produce the next good colts to get onto the roster. And that's the bloodstock cycle that that is so important to Sheikh Mohammed's vision, and that's what will provide Godolphin everywhere with longevity, just as much in Australia as anywhere else. And Sheikh Mohammed has enjoyed some pretty big race wins recently. He's got a very, very good horse, Sovereignty, in the US at the moment. That's as good a horse as you'll find. And that horses like those, horses like Animo, they're incredibly important to the operation, and they really form part of a 10 to 20 year plan. And hopefully Animo is the type of horse that is part of that plan for Australia here.
Do you feel as though being under the roof of Godolphin, I mean, Em talked about your achievement in bringing up the 50 Group 1s quicker than any other. Do you feel as though being at Godolphin, it kind of gets dismissed a little bit, your training achievements, because it is part of a big beast, a big system, and so as a result, I don't feel like we necessarily do, but holistically it feels as though there's a sentiment, well, he should be winning Group 1s. He has the best horses. He has the best breeding. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
The weight of expectation was something that I was interested in the first season when I started with Godolphin 8 years ago. But I did manage to park that to the side and just press on with what was important, to actually achieve results. And that's focusing on processes and doing your best to be the best trainer you can be. So if that is true, what you say, then I've done my best to just ignore it. I really don't like to read too much, information on the periphery in terms of people's opinions and social media, commentary around articles. I enjoy as much as I enjoy the opinions of punters, and I think that they provide great value. And from time to time, a great idea can spawn from punters tossing comments around. Feeling the weight of expectation from people that you just should be winning this or should be winning that. It just doesn't work that way. And you can no better example of that than turning up to the races with a couple of favourites and walking away without a winner. People see an even money favourite sometimes in a stable and they round that up to a win, and it's just not the case. So, the truth is that there are Group 1s, there are good horses, but you've got to go out and get those horses perfect on the day, and you've got to get out and win that race. And it's a lot easier said than done. No matter what the circumstances.
This is like the ultimate sliding doors moment, really, isn't it? Because this wouldn't have come about without Godolphin having, the hard chat with you, saying we're going to change models. And I feel like that process was very drawn out, and there was a lot of, you don't want to listen to negative commentary on social media. Neither do I. But in terms of industry whispers, that was happening for a long time, that something was going to change at Godolphin. And poor James, you just had to sit there and kind of.
But sometimes you need a push, don't you think?
Well, this is what I find amazing about this situation. The push happens, and then there's the opportunity to go back to Leilani Lodge, and then that doesn't, seem like it's quite working out for everyone at the moment, if I'm being honest.
The romantic in me liked that. But there's a difference between romance and reality. I'm sure the romance of that appealed to you as well, James, but there is a difference between romance and reality, and maybe what you saw there or the opportunity
But then this
presented.
opportunity lands and it's like, wow, okay, well, maybe it's all full circle and maybe this is how it was meant to pan out. Do you agree with that, James? That's a bit like woo-woo of me, isn't it?
There might be a sense of fate that's really brought me to Hong Kong and the decision that we've made. But training for Godolphin is an international brand, and now training in Hong Kong is taking the step onto the international stage. I was always ambitious to take a horse racing overseas, and now I've got the opportunity to train overseas. So it does fulfil an ambition of mine, and it continues my journey as a trainer to be as good a trainer as I can possibly be, because I've got no doubt that I've got a lot to learn to really make it, to be the best trainer I can be in Hong Kong. And so I'm undoubtedly going to be improved by that. And I look forward to honing my skills there and growing as a horse trainer, because it is exactly fundamentally, all the talk aside, that's what I enjoy doing. That's what energizes me. And I look forward to getting a string of horses together that I can mould into my own and put my own stamp on a stable there for many years.
So at Godolphin, he was kind of married to the stallions and mares that they provided, right? He was stuck. Whereas in Hong Kong, I feel as though he can now fulfil his lifelong dream, which is to train
Tornados.
No, a horse out of Sabo La Vie.
Yes.
Finally,
correct.
James, this can happen. A horse out of Sabo La Vie. You can live your lifelong dream.
Yeah, you're onto it. I won't be missing that, but I won't be missing out on that. So I'll ring you up, Ben, for more bloodstock advice, because that was sage advice you gave me.
Because ever since you've revealed that on this podcast,
ago.
it's become a running thing, hasn't it? Like every time we see something.
Out of a maiden at Morphettville. I'm telling you, this horse will win, but it's still the best bet I've ever had that definitely lost. This is a little bit random, but just while we have James, I wanted to ask him about Snitzel. I know that in terms of progeny, you may have had limited access, I'm not sure, over the years, but I just wanted to pick your brain on how influential he has been as a stallion in Australia, because he is one of the most successful stallions and essentially redirected multiple generations, didn't he?
He did. He was an amazing stallion, and to think how far he's come and what he's achieved is quite incredible. It's amazing. I suppose he's a rare horse, and he's those rare horses that get to the top. They're worthy of being celebrated, and he certainly deserves those accolades. You're right. I didn't have a huge amount of access to the stock of Snitzel, but I did train a horse. Called Exhilarates, who won a Magic Millions, and she was a very good Snitzel filly that remained just about at the top of her game all the way through to 4 years of age, and was able to do it for 3 seasons. So, I was therefore grateful that I got the chance to have one good horse that he had on the ground. And I think when it's all said and done, there'll be very few stallions that have a record as good as that horse. So, I hope that he gets remembered as fondly as he deserves to be.
This weekend, Zebra Finch in the JJ Atkins at his 4th start. He was very good at Rose Hill a couple of weeks ago. And then Golden Mile, my gosh, he was brave last week at Eagle Farm. He's on the quick backup with 53.5 kilos on his back. He won't know himself, James. This is really your possibly, we've got the Tatsiara in 2 weeks' time, but let's call it, realistically your last opportunity to win a Group 1 here in Australia before you venture off. Talk us through both of those chances on Stradbroke Day.
Yeah, so Golden Mile has been a real project for us, bringing him back from his failed breeding career. He was excellent in the Kingsford Smith Cup there on the weekend, and right up there with his best ratings. He was worth a cheer. And look, I think that now that we've got him to that level, that's perfect timing. Just one run away from the Stradbroke, dropping to 53.5 in a handicap's ideal. The barrier draw just can have him in a good position without overtaxing himself early, and there's good pace in that Stradbroke. So between those things, the slight step up to 7 furlongs, which will be in his favour, Well, I think it all reads very well, but it's a big ask for the horse to come back and win a Stradbroke in his first back from stallion duties. But I do think we've got him flying, and he's going to get his chance.
How long till we see him back, do you reckon, Em?
This bloke?
Yeah.
I think it's a good decade.
A decade?
What do you think, Mr. Cummings?
Listen, I'm committed. I'm not putting a number on it. I think that to make a decision, I think you've absolutely got to be committed, and it might come out of the blocks humming. That's what I hope to do. It might take some time to really build a stable to be exactly where I want it to be. But my position is that I'll put no time frames on that, and I'll put no pressure on myself In terms of numbers, I think the important thing is to focus on process and train the horses that I know I'm capable of training in the way that I'm capable of doing it, and let the results look after themselves.
10 years. That's a long time at the international schools there. All their kids will be coming back with American accents, weirdly, and like British accents. But no, we certainly wish you well, mate. It's, you know what, it's great news because, you're a brilliant trainer and you're getting an opportunity there that very few get. And I know that you're one of those people, one of those random people who make the most of it. So thanks for coming on. But
we'll
best of luck with it all. And I am available. I know you know I'm terrible at golf, but I am available through the midweeks. Just let me know and I'll be there.
You might have some Chinese lessons to get involved with at that time now. It sounds like he's going to really further the skill set.
Is he?
I don't know. Are you going to learn a new language?
A little bit of Duolingo, maybe.
Oh. Yeah, for sure.
Wow,
I think we can get you a tutor for that, mate.
it's
We
fair
don't
to
have to
say
use an onliner.
He's got a long way to go.
No.
Yeah.
Mate, I tell you what, I spent some time with James on Sunday and I was nervous you were unwell, you were that stressed, and now we know why.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure to talk.
Thanks. Congrats to you and the fam.
James Cummings there, of course, joining the training ranks in Hong Kong as of next season. And yes, it's an amazing opportunity for him. But I do feel sad for the Australian industry in a way because we are losing, without a doubt, our brightest training star of the future to an international jurisdiction. And that's great. We get to show him off in a way on the world stage. But I do think it is sad in a way.
Yeah, and you can't help but think if we did present an opportunity and facilities that he felt he
Correct.
could flourish in, he may have stayed.
Yep.
So that hurts.
You don't want to dwell on that too much, but no. I do think, I do think that was the case. Anyways, we move on.
We do.
And we take a look at the Stradbroke. It is Queensland's race, Group 1 over the 1,400 metres. Handicap conditions, of course, and you know, James mentioned Golden Mile. He just looks beautifully placed on that quick backup. He was so brave, close to the speed last weekend. I think he can win again. Be a big ask for Private Eye, carrying 57 kilos, which hasn't been done in the last 25 years. It's a huge weight in a Stradbroke handicap. And War Machine, well, he will start your favourite at about $2.20, $2.40 at the moment. Ben, Will and JD Hayes obviously have Group 1 aspirations for him going forward. He's never been to Eagle Farm, which I think is a question mark considering the way that track has raced over the last few weeks. It's, you know, the wet week and then the on-pace week and, you know, it's
we don't really know what we're going to be
Correct,
getting.
you don't know what you're going for. But yes, he heads your market and he's the unproven Group 1 material in the field.
Yeah, he to my eye is definitely the horse to beat. The market says as much. If I had to pick them first past the post, not price dependent, he would be on top. But there are a couple at a price I think worth considering. I just want to say on the Stradbroke, we anticipated the second they moved that week back that we would have heavy attrition. We've had that. So they've now lost their headlines. True or false?
True. Jolly Star, Giga Kick, Benedetta, all of those horses that could have potentially coped with the 2-week space in between runs between the Kingsford Smith Cup.
Or 9 or 10 days.
Or 9 or 10 days, correct. You know, there were pretty quick decisions by all of those connections. We're not going there. Having said that, there are a few on the backup. It's given Rothfire an extra week to get his foot right and back on the mark.
I mean, remarkable story. So James rarely gets, I shouldn't say rarely, but I guess he struggles to get rides in the Stradbroke typically because of his weight. And there are a lot of lightweight options in the race that he can't ride.
Well, there's only really 3 that he could because 54.5 is hard yakka.
Pushing it, yeah.
So Desert Lightning, Rothfire and Private Eye.
Yeah, so he's ended up with Rothfire. But, you know, we talk about great training performance throughout the course of the season. Rothfire for the past few seasons has been a remarkable training effort just getting that horse back on the track. So fingers crossed all okay. They wouldn't be racing if it wasn't. Huge run last time out. And on that would be tough to beat. But favourite to my eye. Where do you see a horse like Cool Archie?
I want to believe that he can perform just as well on a dry deck, but my mind is telling me he's the superior wet tracker in that field in the JJ Atkins. It'd be an amazing thing for the picket fence to continue for him. This colt by Cool as a Bill, he's won 4 on the bounce. Every time they raise the bar, he goes again. He's very versatile. But the fact that his biggest victories have been on bottomless tracks has me slightly concerned. I want to be a believer that he is a genuine superstar colt and could go on to achieve great things in his 3-year-old year. But I think any form analyst or racing fan would look at those H8s, H9s, H10s and be like, oh, yes, you're not going to get those conditions on the weekend.
Does our bet still stand for Bazusto?
In the Stratty?
I mean, it's easier, really. Yeah, so it was Kingsford Smith originally, but there was some headline acts there, and you were given a very lenient top 4.
I thought that was very fair.
Well, it didn't look too fair when you ran 5th or 6th in a pretty average
Look,
Group 3 during the week.
I do think he does need it wet. Hearing from Annabelle Archibald this week, they do put that second up effort down to a bit of second up syndrome, which is interesting. They obviously believe he's a better horse than what he showed in the Fred Best. 10 days in between runs. That was an aberration.
So we've touched on Cool Archie for the JJ. Any other horses out of that?
Yeah, there's I'm just getting to it because race 6 on the card. So they've got the JJ, then the Dane Ripper, the Group 2, and then we go back up to the Group 1, which is a little unusual, a little unconventional. Usually you have the Group 1s back to back. Cool Archie 4 on the bounce. Aerodrome's really interesting for Michael Friedman. He didn't handle the heavy going, and I think a lot of horses you're going to be able to forgive from their runs in that Group 2 size produce because it was not a heavy 10, it was like a heavy 15 at that point in time. That's the last race of the day before they called it off. The same with Hidden Achievement, I'm very interested in him. And then Navy Pilot, he's the one that I come back to because they have a huge opinion of him. Like, he's running Group 1s in Sydney during the autumn.
Yeah.
And he's going to show some that talent at some point in time. Is it now up to the mile for Kieran Maher? So Cool Archie, Aerodrome, Hidden Achievement, Navy Pilot are the ones that I'm looking at really closely. Can you believe Kieran McAvoy, who's on board Zebra Finch for James Cummings, has won 4 of these? 4 JJs, spanning back to 2001.
I was quite taken with that win. People will kind of dismiss it, and I guess Hidden Achievement, you're looking at that run out of that race as well. But Zebra Finch was really strong through the line and it kind of had to absorb a little more than the rest of them. Yes, it might have been a walkathon, and yeah, because of that, we're now elevating the horses that ran on from the back. But I thought Zebra Finch was very good. We've got the Q22 as well. The likes of Faulkner Park and Co. A race that probably hasn't captured my imagination yet, but does attract good horses. Maybe post-autumn and early spring horses. It's an awkward time.
No, I think it's a good time.
Do you?
Yeah, because you look at what Without a Fight did a couple of years ago. History shows, particularly in the last 10 to 15 years, that those horses that run well in your Caulfield Cups and your Melbourne Cups in particular, they carry that residual fitness from the middle of winter, from racing in your Doomben Cups, from racing in your Q22s. So
Nice choice.
It's a proven formula because you give them a nice run over the 2,200 metres in June, and then they get out to a beautiful paddock just outside of Brisbane, sun on their back, they can flourish and just really enjoy winter whilst not freezing their backsides off.
You're making me want to run in the Q22 and then the Caulfield Cup.
This edition of it isn't... it's okay. It's okay. I like to see a bigger field for this race. Faulkner Park, I think, is going to be really hard to beat. He's been running really well, gets a good deck. He won it last year. And then Militarise and Kovalika, 2 of our mates.
Militarise, you feel as though has been brewing, but you just wonder whether the best is still there.
There's been signs of life.
Yeah, but we say the same thing about Kovalika. There was no bigger fan of Kovalika than me, but... Oh, boy.
Took a good one to beat him in the Doomben Cup, though, in Antino. I thought he was really good that day.
He was. He's always good.
I wouldn't rule him out.
You can never rule him out.
And
but that doesn't mean he wins.
Some sort of effort, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
His first win since winning
In fact,
Queensland
he'd be the one that would please me the most if he were to win.
Yeah.
Because I feel as though he deserves one, and he was probably, in fairness to him, he was a touch unlucky in a couple of defeats as well. He's always bumped into good horses. He's always been against the best.
New endeavour on on the back up to the 2,200 metres for the very first time for the Waterhouse and Botyard's interesting. And then Banker's Choice could be a big day for Team Hayes. He's underrated, but he's been racing really well and very consistently. And yes, it's a rising grade and the quality of opposition, but I believe that he can run a big race too. But there's 8 in the field. I mean, good luck.
Are you having a look at Royal Ascot?
I am going to the Royal meeting.
Sorry. So the Queen will arrive this year. Why are you there?
I am heading over because with the work that I do with my racehorse, we've bought a horse called Lightning Man, and he's going to race on either the Thursday or the Saturday.
Right.
And I'm over there as a representative for him, but also I'm going to shoot some stories for Seven while I'm over there. So I'm enjoying. I'll go to 3 days.
Is that so? Are they subsidising the trip, or is it so that you can claim it on tax?
I'm not discussing that.
This podcast has always been about the tough questions. You thought they were only going the way of James. We've got a few Aussies over there.
Yeah, so Mark Zara going over to ride Docklands over there on day one, and then he'll be heading for a very Mark Zara holiday, I believe. But that's interesting because they want to bring him back for a Cox Plate.
What's a Mark Zara holiday? Ibiza or?
Right. Correct. Okay. A lot of champagne, I imagine.
That's what I anticipated, but I just wanted confirmation.
Tony Gollan and First Light Racing have got a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And you're hosting their lunch tomorrow.
And Tony's the guest speaker.
And Tony's going as well.
Yeah. So
wow.
he's one that I'll be chatting to and pressing about that. And they're all very nervous.
Are they?
Yeah.
It's a great experience. And I think as well on Monday evening, they'll have the Goff sale, which is the big fancy sale in Kensington Gardens, I think. And a lot of money thrown around to buy a runner that could race that week.
Right.
At Ascot. I think the Waterhouse bot team will be very active at that sale, as they have been in the past. And then James McDonald will go over to ride 3 days of the carnival, including Carl Spackler, the entire from America.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That popped up in the Cox Plate market, was it?
He would have, yeah.
Yes.
So he'll run on day one. And then he'll be over here with Kieran. So you get Kieran and Tony Gollan over there. So it's going to be fun times ahead.
You may not come back.
I'll be right.
Yeah.
I'll hold my own.
Yeah, I'm sure you
will.
will.
I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been to that meeting for a really long time. And Asfura, we've forgotten Asfura, the headline act. So Henry Dwyer taking over Asfura again. She's been over there for a couple of weeks. Blinkers going on. Just get a couple of extra lengths out of her, knowing that the end is nigh.
It's nice because we had a couple of years where we might have one head over for some one jockey head over and no horses, or, one horse that was a minimal chance type thing. Whereas I feel as though the past couple of years we've really ramped it up again.
Really love to see some of our big guns, though, go over the next couple of years. But it is an expensive exercise, especially when we're racing for such huge prize money in Australia. Like, you look at the prize money over there, and it's not awful, but it's not what we've got.
No, but it's also our only break. Like, we used to have lengthy breaks, whereas now you pretty much go, spring into Perth summer, into Magic Millions, into autumn.
In Melbourne, then into Sydney, then into
Adelaide
Brisbane.
briefly steals a few, then we go into the winter. There's no break bar, really, the next month and a bit.
Yeah.
So I understand the hesitancy to go over and do that. But either way, lots of good racing to come up.
Will you be tuning in to any of the coverage? Are you an armchair dweller during Royal Ascot?
No, I always sit up and watch Royal Ascot and have a few bets here or there.
Do you?
Yeah. Glorious Goodwood and Ascot are the two that attract me from.
It is a spectacle, isn't it? Yeah. Looking forward to getting over there and just spending, I think I'm 5 or 6 days on the ground, but I will make it count.
I'm sure you will.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Been good fun coming back for the winter.
Yes.
Been a fantastic season. Congratulations to all of our premiership winners. The trend rolls on in Sydney with Chris Waller and James McDonald, and we probably sleep on their achievements a little bit. But what a season. Talking points every week. I've loved doing it with you, Em.
And we'll be back to do it again for the early spring, I imagine, which gives us a couple of months hiatus to just refresh and reboot ourselves before we come back and join you again on So We Think.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.